for coming with me through this journey, and thank you for your support. Part of the reason why I'm doing this is to spread the word about what I'm creating, and also hopefully to inspire some people and help people through this these dark times. I like the time period that we're in right now is what many of us have feared for a very long time, and it's here. It's here. We are facing dystopia. We are facing the complete collapse of our civilization, civil war, economic collapse, potential World War III, the rise of artificial intelligence, almost any existential threat that has been warned about by free thinkers and heroic fiction, dystopian fiction. It's all here right now at our doorsteps. Most of us are trying to bury our heads in the sand because admittedly it's a very difficult thing to face. Unfortunately, we have no choice right now but to either face it or succumb to it. I've personally prepared myself for what it looks like if we succumb to it, and I don't want it, but I'm ready for it. I know the vast majority of people out there are not ready for what this could turn into if we don't rise up and unite as a human fucking species right now. So I want to serve as a beacon of inspiration to not just point out how fucked everything is, how there's this global domination agenda to centralize and control all the fucking resources and power on the planet into the hands of a few. Just look at the Great Reset. I mean, people have been talking about this for decades. Free thinkers have been warning about this shit for decades and being written off as conspiracy theorists or crazies. For a while, we had, when Alex Jones was able to get into Bohemian Grove, people could point to that, be like, "Oh, look, see, these guys are coming together and they're plotting against us at these weird rituals." And eventually, people would just write that off, like, "Oh, they're just having fun." Okay. And then there was the Bilderberg meetings that were denied to even exist before enough people like Luke Rudkowski, Dan Dix, Jeff Berwick, getting in these people's faces in real life and recording it. They were denying the existence of the Bilderberg group until enough people had recorded the shit in progress. They couldn't deny it anymore. So now they're done. They're done denying. They're done trying to hide the existence. They now come together in groups like the World Economic Forum with their Great Reset. And they're open and upfront about what they're trying to accomplish. In their infamous video, they said, in the year 2030, you will own nothing and you will be happy. Key words. You will own nothing. Who do you think is going to own it? Who do you think is going to own it? And they don't deny it. You got people like Bill Gates flying around the world, lecturing people on climate change and this and that. At the same time, he's buying up all the farmland, launching plots to cover the atmosphere in dust to block out the sun. Does it get more dystopian than that? At what point do we see what's happening and stand up, put our foot down and say no more? Because we know where this goes. You have the child trafficking, human trafficking, pedophilia rings that exist amongst highly powerful people within the government. I mean, the Epstein case really brought that to the forefront of the mainstream consciousness, where before that was another thing that was just conspiracy theory. And we've watched the establishment try to cover up and bury that story. Does that not feel weird? Does that not feel weird to you? Is that okay? To know that these things are happening amongst the most wealthy, powerful, and influential and famous people in our society. And this establishment is willfully trying to hide it. And we know. And all of these people are out running around still getting on TV and lecturing the average person about how, like, what we all need to do to get over the pandemic or to get past climate change, when these people are evil sociopaths. The impending economic collapse, the whole system is rotten from its core. Since the establishment of the Federal Reserve, this nation has been sold out. Federal Reserve, fractional reserve banking, central bank. This stuff does not work. It does not work. By work, I mean it doesn't lead to the greatest human flourishing and the greatest, most equal opportunity for human beings to be able to come up in a meritocracy and to thrive in an authentic, genuine meritocracy. What we have is called capitalism by a lot of these talking heads, but this is not free market capitalism. This is not actually free market capitalism. What we have is a crony capitalist establishment that more closely resembles an oligarchy and is moving towards pure dystopian technocracy. And I don't know how many more clues we need. How many more clues do we need? You have the president of the United States right now as a man who has been caught many times on camera in public at press conferences, big political, well-to-do establishment events, sniffing little girls. And people voted for this man. Oh, but he's not Trump. He's not Trump. Are you okay with this? You're okay with voting for, and don't even get me started about the woke crowd and Black Lives Matter and all this supporting this man. Old Crime Bill Joe. Whose bills in the 90s and whose rhetoric led to more incarceration of nonviolent Black and brown people than almost anything else I can think of. And yet this man has been heralded as the most popular president to ever be elected, as the man who's going to unify this country. It's absurd. We live in a clown. This is officially a clown world. Nothing makes sense. Logic and reason exist. It exists. They still exist and are alive and well, but in pockets. In pockets. And they're not allowed to propagate in the mainstream. What we have currently almost represents the combination and the culmination of almost every dystopian fiction that has ever been conjured or imagined. They're not even making any more Black Mirrors. There's no plan to make any more Black Mirror episodes at this point in time. I forget the terms that the creator used exactly, but basically we live in such a dystopian world right now. It's hard to even satirize. This is satire. I sometimes imagine at some point it started to become difficult for me to accept that we're living in the main reality, the main real universe. And I started imagining that like this is actually the satirical spin-off universe, that we don't actually live in the real universe. This is just the satirical spin-off universe. I mean, if that was real, like what would be different? What would be different right now if God snapped his fingers and placed us in a satirical dystopian spin-off universe? What would be different right now? What would be different? The polarization. We have been aware of concepts like divide and conquer for decades. For decades. For centuries, concepts like divide and conquer have been out there, and we still succumb to it. Whether it's left, right, mask, no mask, conservative, liberal, vax, no vax, black, white, it's just this tools of division. When you talk about the most significant divisions, the most significant discrepancies and groups of people in our lives that have the greatest impact on all of our lives is actually the class disparity, the wealth inequality. You have the 0.001% that has more resources than the majority of the rest of the planet combined. Is that okay? Is that okay? Now, I believe government in itself is immoral. Government in itself is immoral. I'm a voluntarist. I believe all human interaction should be voluntary. Now, when you say that at first, like most people are like, yeah, yeah, everything should be voluntary. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, everything should be consensual, right? Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you get buy-in from most people on first glance until you take it to its logical next steps. So that means that a government based on a geographical monopoly on force is inherently immoral. You hear me? So for a government to exist that forces us to obey its edicts, its policies by the force of the threat of by the threat of violence. For that to exist is immoral. And so one distinction that a lot of people need to understand before even diving any further into that is we've been driven to conflate what is immoral versus what is legal. What is moral with what is legal? These things have been conflated. Meaning that a lot of people assume that what is illegal because it's immoral, and that immoral things should be made illegal. When in all actuality, lots of immoral things have been legal through history. In fact, some of the greatest atrocities that have ever been, slavery in America, for example, was legal. The fact that it was legal had no ramifications in terms of whether it was moral or not. On the flip side, we have plant medicines. We have plant medicines which are illegal. Slowly we're seeing progress happen in this regard, but for decades now, plant medicines have been illegal. There are hundreds of thousands of people that have spent time in jail, in prison, for possession of nature. For possession of nature, for possession of plants, fungi, extracts of plants. Having not committed any harm on anyone else. Listen, if you're a gang member, cartel member that's out here committing violence against people, like killing people, whatever, you deserve to face consequences, and there has to be repercussions for your violence against other people. But it's not even these days. It's not even a controversial stance to say that nonviolent drug offenders should not be locked in cages. And still, even in places where it has been legalized, there exist thousands upon thousands of non-violent drug offenders still in jail and prison. Still in prison for possession of plants. Most of which have healing properties that are helping people get through incredibly difficult times and helping people navigate a profoundly sick society. Personally, I don't know where I would be if it weren't for psilocybin mushrooms, which have gotten me through numerous depressions. Yet these things, they're still illegal in more than 95% of the globe. Psilocybin mushrooms are still illegal. One of the most profound healing tools, one of the most profound specimens in nature in general, across a wide spectrum of use cases. These fungi, still illegal. And if I were found in possession of any decent amount of these fungi right now, I could be imprisoned. When I'd say more than almost any other thing I can think of, these fungi have been tools to make me a better person, to expand my consciousness, to help me evolve mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You're talking about trying to become a better person, trying to expand your empathy, trying to elevate your consciousness. These are some of the most noble and pure pursuits that any human can engage in. And psilocybin mushrooms represent one of the best tools to catalyze us in that pursuit. And yet the state would ruin families, would come to your house with guns, lock you in a cage for possession. So, now that we've arrived at law and legality and morals and morality can't be conflated as one and the same. They are different. So you gotta recognize, when you think we need a state to help us enforce morality in a society, you have to realize that states have primarily been used not to reinforce a widely accepted morality. And even when they have, like, they've been used to reinforce moralities that aren't accepted as universal, right? So if you take Judeo-Christian values, the state has been used to enforce those morals on everybody else as law when everybody doesn't agree with those values. Otherwise, law is mainly utilized to exercise control, power, and influence over the population by the upper class. You see, we've been caught in some of these same cycles for hundreds and hundreds of years. Some of these same cycles. What we have right now and what we're moving towards in the future aren't very radically different from feudalism. Or from monarchy in many places on the globe right now. You see, these notions of democracies and republics, they've been useful tools. They've been useful tools to cast the illusion of change while keeping the same fundamental mechanics in place. That's why they call these revolutions. I'm gonna get real hotep on you right now. You think about the nearest definition of revolution that comes to your mind. It's a rotation, right? A revolution is a rotation. The same powers that existed in the previous iteration continue to control things in the next iteration, albeit with a different skin, a different veneer, a different mask over top of it. At the end of the day, we're still talking about the very few at the top of the fucking pyramid, in the fucking eye of Providence, the very few colluding to keep the rest of us in line, suppressed, and out of the club. So what are we to do? What are we to do? Are we going to continue to repeat these same cycles over and over for millennia? Allowing wealth inequality to continue to expand until we're in a dystopia like Elysium, where the people at the top of the pyramid have all the wealth and the resources, and they're living in space, living comfortable lives, and we're all living here in squalor on Earth. When all trends for generations have led to the greater and greater centralization of power and control on the fucking planet into fewer and fewer hands. And when, again, these guys have become so emboldened as to no longer hide their illusions, their collusions, no longer hide their intentions, to dub it a great reset of global capitalism. Are we to allow this to continue? And look, I know a lot of you are scared. It can be a scary thing to confront. And the question remains, like, who am I? What can I do? But I'm here to say, with the current state of things and with the exponential increase in technology and the exponential expansion of the wealth inequality, the exponential increase in polarization, especially in the US, but also across the globe right now, the rampant institutional capture of any sort of any sort of organization of governance that you may have trusted before, like if you look closely and honestly now, there it's all captured, it's all corrupt. Are we to allow this to continue? Even though we have for centuries now allowed these same cycles to continue, we don't have that luxury anymore. We are in a position right now where, for the survival and the continuation of the human species, we must decentralize power away from federal governments, from big tech, from big corporations. We must decentralize power away from these institutions back into the hands of the people, into the hands of the many. Because if we don't, the vast majority of us will not survive. So look, I know it's scary. Everybody has things to be scared for and things they want to protect. Things that they know would be threatened if they stood up, made a stance. Oh, my job. I got a job. I don't want to lose my job. I'm trying to put food on the table for my kids. I understand. I get it. Here's the thing now. If we don't stand up, if we don't unify, and soon, your job won't exist. Your kids will live in a fucking barren dystopia, I'm sorry to say. This is what it is. What will it take? Where's your line? Where's your line? With all that said, the concept of this album is fight or flight. The album is called Fight Flight. And it deals with the internal conflict when you start to awaken to the dark realities of the global domination agenda or the ecological catastrophes we face. Basically, the imminent doom of human society. When you wake up to these things, there are the two age-old impulses. Do you fight? Do you risk everything you know and love to try to conquer that challenge, to overcome those villains, to slay those metaphorical dragons? Or do you take flight? Which is ultimately an egoistic impulse, right? It's like you're knowing what can happen to the entire fucking human species, knowing what can happen to your children and your posterity, that you could try to that you would fall back into escapism. Is just not confront these issues, to try to avoid them in any way you possibly can. I mean, for me, that's taken. I mean, this is the escapism takes a lot of forms. It takes a lot of forms. Escapism can be like numbing yourself out, just like binging Netflix every single day. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a Netflix binge. Don't get me wrong. Look, I enjoy a Netflix binge, but I'm saying like if a good portion of your day every single day is just like vegging out on the couch watching TV, there's a good like you're in escapism. You can default to escapism via TV or video games. That was definitely an escape mechanism for me. When you get fucking sick of this reality, just like just turn on those games, turn on that Call of Duty, that World of Warcraft. Just like let the problems of the world fade away. It's one of the main ways I've dealt with it. Escapism can take the form of substance abuse, whether it be alcohol, weed, fucking harder drugs, whatever. For me, it was definitely alcohol. Well, it is alcohol. Anytime the weight of the world gets to be so much that I feel like I can't fucking tolerate it, that, you know, the whole saying ignorance is bliss, where I feel like it's so hard for me to escape thoughts of this reality that that we're living through right now, that I just have to fucking numb myself out and lower my vibration with by just fucking like drinking myself into ignorance. Can take that form. There's a lot of forms it can take. No, escapism is necessary, and there are healthy outlets and less healthy outlets. You know, I mean, I do find myself now like having healthier escape outlets, like going to the gym. Just working out is just a way for me to just blow off some of that steam and to get out of my head and stop thinking all about this. To stop obsessing over the fucking fall of human civilization. Just grow some pecs. So escapism is it can be necessary, and we have to. There's balance is always necessary, and we have to find ways to navigate this because, listen, us human beings, we weren't designed to have to confront the collapse of our entire existence and the existence of all other biological life on the planet, of animal life at least, and this mass extinction we're going through. We weren't designed to confront that. Our own mortality, yeah, but there's mechanisms in place, you know. It's still one of our greatest challenges, but yeah, I mean, there are mechanisms in place to help us cope with our own mortalities. But this is heavy shit. This is heavy shit. And so, escapism can be necessary. But no matter what you try to do to escape, we're in a stage right now where this machine will not let you escape. It must be confronted. So the question is, do I fight? Fighting can take many forms. Fighting can be protesting, although, I think protesting has its place. I don't want to completely disparage it. I don't think protesting isn't the answer. Going out, holding up picket signs is not the answer. It helps. It really does help. It really does help. There have been things that have been turned around by a big enough public display. I think it's useful for making a message, for garnering attention, and another really useful element of it that isn't really focused on or harnessed very properly is just connecting with other people that share your values and that are trying to make a difference. Like every protest should have some mechanism for everybody within that protest to link up, exchange contact information, and to be networked moving forward. There needs to be better mechanisms for all that. So we could do a better job about that. But yeah, protests are one way to fight. Really, the most important way to fight is through the proliferation of better ideas. Talk all the shit you want about Alex Jones. Alex Jones is right about a lot of things. And don't get wrong, look, I've gone through my roller coaster with Alex Jones. He was fundamental earlier in my process, when I was first starting to wake up and having watched movies like Zeitgeist and Money Masters and eventually Thrive. Having watched documentaries like that and having woken up to a lot of the realities, he was definitely really useful in helping deepen the understandings of the conspiratorial nature of a lot of what's transcending, what's transpiring. Helped to really shed light on the conspiratorial aspects of things that are transpiring on the global stage right now. And so Alex Jones definitely served an important role early on. But then I just started like this guy, it's just all fucking negativity, all some of the stuff he says I know is true. Some of this sounds like BS. And it's just all negativity. It's all the problem. What are the solutions? What are the solutions is what I was missing too. It's okay, well, what do we do? What do we do besides just getting mad? But I bring him up to just point out that, again, he's right about some things. And his brand, InfoWar, that is it. That's what this is. This is an informational war. Of course, there's the cultural war, which is it's all part of the same thing. It's an informational war. It's a culture war. It's a war on consciousness. It's a war on consciousness. It's an attempt to keep our consciousness boxed into a tiny little realm of possibilities, into narrow reality tunnels, to where we can't imagine anything outside of the way things are. And this is apparent. Anytime you talk to anybody about, hey, look, maybe we just need to Maybe we just need to like abolish this system and like do something completely different. Maybe there's like dramatically different ways that we can organize human society. There's always the impulse that like that people just the vast majority of people just they try to justify and protect the establishment in any way they can because that is perceived as such a threat to them. It's perceived as such a threat. When you've been forced inside these narrow reality tunnels for your entire life, and then somebody says, "Hey, there's something outside of that." It's too difficult for most people to step outside of that. Some of us can. Some of us can. Everybody has the capability of doing so. But there's the gravity, there's the social pressure. There's a social pressure that makes that really difficult. It's the gravity. You don't want to be seen as crazy or a conspiracy theorist or a loon. You don't want to be outcasts from the tribe. You don't want to be looked at with disapproval when you can't answer all the questions. Cause see, this is another thing. Of all I could go on all day about all this shit, but this is another thing. Anytime you suggest to somebody that, hey, look, we should live in a voluntary world without force-based governance, where governmental services operate like free market services, and where if you believe in and want a service from this organization, then you pay specifically for that service, and if you don't, then you don't. Right? When you start painting, or I mean, it could be some of the other visions that have existed out there, you know, like zeitgeist. The zeitgeist movement was really fundamental in my path. And so things like the Venus Project, to me, that doesn't represent, I'm not sure that's the best way to move forward or the best way to manage society. But it's incredibly interesting to me. And there have been times where I did think maybe this is the best way. And more than anything, I want the free market of the ability to try these different ideas. I want the free market of the ability to try out a lot of these ideas. Because look, no matter how smart any of us are, no matter how smart any of us are, how many fucking books or philosophies you study, or what, like it doesn't fucking matter. Like we as human beings will never sit down, have a philosophical discussion, and just come up with, okay, this is the best system. Let's all agree to this and let's do it. That's nonsense. That's not how the world works. That's not how we work. So how does it work? How can it, how do we move forward? And I think we already have the blueprints. Look at how technology works. Can you imagine if the way smartphones were designed is that all of us voted on what we thought was the best way to design a phone? And there was only, you only had the choice of one. There was no choice. Like there was one phone, and we all had to sit around and vote about the different specs that it would have and all that. Do you think that'd be the best way to produce the best phones? No, obviously it wouldn't. How does our system? We have a free market, a freer market, I should say. But the idea being that, like, If you have a better idea of how to make a smartphone, and you can gather with people that believe that or galvanize a group of people that believe in what you believe and to generate the resources to execute it, then you have the freedom to be able to put your vision out there and let it compete with the existing offerings and see what works. Why do you think that the technological evolution of human society has dramatically outpaced our social and cultural evolution? Well, I mean, there's multiple reasons, of course. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's like Moore's law. Yeah, of course, technology just fucking scales. Like, yeah, I mean, it's easier to. Technology is concrete. It's easier to establish quantitative goals and to engineer plans to move towards those goals and to make concrete and tangible progress in a certain direction. So I mean, it's not that simple, but it is a really fundamental driving force of innovation that we have this open ecosystem to where you can have a better idea of a smart or an app. It can be an app, whatever free market product or service you can think of. You can have a better idea for your restaurant and you can say, hey, I got the resources, I have the people, and we're going to try this. And how's it go? Oftentimes they fail. The majority of the time they fail. Because the majority of us got bad ideas. Or like you have bad ideas at some point. And bad ideas are able to fail. And through the failure of your bad ideas, you might have better ideas. Regardless, better ideas will exist. And the ones that succeed, the ones that are successful and spreading because they are a better offering, are the products that come to the forefront. Cream of the crop rise to the top sort of thing. And so what we have in governance is not that. Most of us are aware of the problems with monopolies, or aware of the problems with monopolies, like, how when there's no competition, you can be exploited. People know this. That's why there's laws against monopolies. That's why they exist. That's why laws against monopolies exist. Because we know that this doesn't lead to the best outcome for the end user. So why can't we carry over that understanding? Why have we compartmentalized these understandings of how progress and innovation actually work? Why do we assume that the best way to handle governance is to allow one institution to have a monopoly over the entire endeavor? And that the best that we can do is to vote to shuffle around roles within this institution is dumb. It's fucking dumb. It's remedial. It is remedial. It has served its purpose. It has ran its course, and it has already become obsolete before the alternatives have even fully revealed themselves. This shit doesn't work. This shit doesn't work. Look at what we have right now. Do any of you feel deep in your fucking spirits that the government is making your life better? Do any of you really have a deep rooted optimism that, hey, you know what? When I wake up tomorrow, life is going to be better. It's going to be happier. It's going to be more abundant because of the work that all of our elected officials are doing in office right now. Does anybody really feel like that? So why we keep playing this fucking game? Why we keep playing these games? It can't. It's not sustainable. Look, either everything's gonna fall apart relatively soon here, the entire thing is just gonna collapse, or the global cabal is going to be successful in enacting their great reset and centralizing the control over the entire fucking world into their hands and establishing a one world government where they can tax the fuck out of all of us. And there's just this one tiny little top of the pyramid class and then a vast plebeian class. One of those things are going to happen, but insofar as they succeed in that endeavor, it will not last. It cannot last. Too many of us know the jig, and the jig is up. The jig is up. And look, I advocate for peaceful, not even peaceful revolution, peaceful evolution. I think we need to be building solutions. We need to be building alternatives to all of these corrupt, rotten to the core, centralized institutions. We need to be building alternatives to all of these. We need to be becoming self-reliant. We need to claim our own autonomy. And so while I advocate that route of moving beyond this, there are a lot of people out there that want to do this in a more dirty fashion. And I'm not advocating that, but I'm just pointing out the reality that that's what exists. So, insofar as this cabal is able to institute their new world order, it will not last long. They will not last long. And it's going to leave either way we're facing a mass collapse of our civilization because we can't learn from the subtle hints, apparently. Apparently, we can't learn from the subtle hints. You know, just like physical pain. It's a lot like physical pain. So you can take your finger and look, hey, okay. Just holding my finger up, it feels normal. I can pull it back a little bit, like, okay, I have some give here, no problem. That doesn't, and then the further you pull it back, like, okay, that's starting to get uncomfortable. That's starting to get uncomfortable. I can't go that far. I need to do something. Like, look, our physical pain, it exists in this gradient of significance. Like, no pain at all. Okay, it feels slightly uncomfortable, a little more uncomfortable. Okay, now it's starting to hurt, but it's starting. And then if I completely, now I'll be in excruciating pain, right? This gradient, this dial of pain that we're able to feel is there, so we can adjust. We can adjust based on subtle cues. That's one of the amazing things about our biology. We can feel a slight discomfort and be like, oh, I got a little too close to that flame, and I realized, like, okay, I didn't get burnt. That was a little uncomfortable, so I need to keep my distance. And you can learn from the subtle pain, the subtle cues. You can learn from those subtle cues. And as long as you say, okay, okay, I get it. I can't bend my finger back that far. I better not go any further. Or like, I better not let my hand get any closer to that flame. The same way we can learn that lesson and not have to get burnt if we're able to take those early cues and be like, oh, okay, let me stay away from that, and not have to endure the burn. The same thing works collectively and culturally. The same shit is at play. And unfortunately, we've come too close. And I could be wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. But it feels like we're getting too close to the flame of societal collapse, of totalitarian dystopian control. We're getting too close to these things, and not enough of us are feeling the burn to pull our hand back and avoid having to learn the harder way of actually being burnt. So at this point, I'm feeling like I almost feel like the collapse is inevitable. I feel like it's inevitable. I feel like we're not being sensitive enough as a society to feel the burn. We've had plenty of indication in the past. I mean, even in the 20th century, of what it looks like when we allow authoritarian regimes to get out of control. We're not learning our lesson, apparently. Getting way too close to this flame again. And so I fear we have no choice but to get burnt, because a lot of you will continue going on with your normal life and just trying to bury your head into the sand until it really hurts. And part of me thinks that the only way that we can move forth and know not to return to this fascism, to these authoritarian outcomes, is that we're going to have to get burnt. I wish we didn't have to. I mean, there's a lot of people that have been trying to prevent this from happening, but here we are. And so one thing I'll say, I know for a lot of you, I'm lucky enough to be connected with a lot of people that already get it. And so here in the beginning of my pretty close to the beginning of my individual personal brand content creation career, that sort of thing. I'll be sharing it with a lot of people that already understand, and I'm lucky enough to be a part of a tribe that does already. So a lot of you already get it, but there's a lot of you that are hearing me say the things that I'm saying, and you're snapping your lips. Smack this guy off. He thinks civilization is going to collapse. He thinks government is immoral. It's fine. Look, it's fine. I'm not. For a lot of people, you won't be convinced through rhetoric and logic. I'm not here trying to convince you. But what I will request, I will just plant a seed. I will just plant a seed, and I will just issue one request. Don't buy it right now. I mean, you're free to turn this video off, whatever. You can curse me. I can drop whatever in my comments to talk whatever shit you want to talk. But yeah, please feel free. I would just urge you to remember people like me. Remember those of us who have been out here warning you about what's to come, right? Disbelieve it as you may. Now, when it comes, look back to those same people for how to get out of it. Because we will have been the people preparing for it and trying to understand how to move beyond it. Look back towards those same people. That's all I ask. I would just ask, as we go through this collapse of civilization, that is a controlled demolition of society, as we go through this controlled demolition by the people currently in control of the game, that know we have no choice but to change the game because the boiling point has gotten too high, but who want to stay in control of the game, so they want to usher in the collapse so that they can control it and that they can control the outcome and drive us in the direction they want to that they want to go in. So when we get to that place, when things come crashing down, all I ask is, again, look back to people like me and not to the people that have dragged us through this in the first place. When society collapses, don't look to Bill Gates or the Rockefellers or the Rothschilds or the Klaus Schwabs or the Jeff Bezos or the Zuckerberg or any of these people. Don't look. These people are not going to be who gets us out of this. They aren't. They just aren't. Think about everything that you know about how human beings work. They aren't going to be the ones that get us out of this. Why would they? They're winning the game. Like seriously, why would the people who are winning this game actually want to dramatically change the game to tilt the odds out of their favor? Why would they ever do that? Do you think these people are that selfless, that humanitarian, that spiritually, emotionally, and psychologically evolved? Don't get me wrong. A lot of these are phenomenally smart individuals. Do you think that they are evolved to that level to where they are really going to usher society in a direction that undermines their own power, influence, and wealth. Do you think? If you think that, the whole thing they say about oceanfront property in Colorado to sell you. Yeah, I got some. So what are you gonna do? Are you going to take flight? Or are you going to fight? Or are you going to take the third route that I alluded to earlier? The evolutionary route. I'm a big fan of cryptocurrencies, right? Part of my awakening process was Ron Paul. He was a phenomenal part of my awakening process, my political awakening. Reading his book, hearing everything he had to say about abolishing the Federal Reserve. So one of the primary causes of human suffering on the planet, central banking. Abolish that fucking Federal Reserve. Yeah, all about it. All about it. And so I hear Ron Paul talk about auditing the Fed, abolishing the Fed. I'm like, yes, please, yes. This guy is real. This is real. This is the real structural change that would actually lead to better lives for the majority of us. And so I'm hearing him talk about that, and there's all the in the Fed protests that were happening at that time, like in the Fed, like, yeah, protest, audit the Fed, yeah, all about it. Okay, yes, cool, awesome. Do that. At the same time, what's better than fighting that system is to create something new that renders that old system obsolete, as Buckminster Fuller would advocate for. And so we witnessed the birth of cryptocurrency, of Bitcoin, and all the other altcoins, and the proliferation of these coins. This, to me, represents one of the best examples of, it wasn't a fight. It wasn't a flight. I'm sorry. You could have taken flight, and a lot of people did. The hippie movement was all about taking flight from this financial tyranny. That's one of the main things that it aspired to achieve. Was taking flight from this fucking rat race, even if they couldn't properly name that central banking was one of the greatest reasons why we live in this rat race. So you could have taken flight from it, or you could have fought it like Ron Paul did and tried to audit the Fed, like all of the people trying to protest to audit the Fed, fighting it. Yes, fuck yeah, I get it. Let's do it. But the real way out and the real way forward is by evolving. It's not a revolution, it's the solution. It's evolution. It's evolution. It's evolving beyond the current system in a way that renders it obsolete. And cryptocurrency is a phenomenal example of that. But there are many other examples, and there are many things yet to be invented across all of the sectors of human society. But it's that mentality, that cultural shift that needs to take place right now. And that's part of what I want to help usher in. To transcend this feeling of powerlessness, like there's nothing we can do. Like there's nothing we can do about the system that we just have to, it's just life. It's just the way it is. Few things are certain in life. Death and taxes. Couple things that are certain in life: death and taxes. Which obviously you should understand by this point in the conversation. Taxation is theft. Taxation is theft. Of course. But come on, the only thing certain in life: death and taxation. How dumb. We're the only fucking species walking around being taxed to live. And obviously, you can't argue that the entire of human prehistory, people were just being taxed the entire time. I mean, I know it's a joke, not to dig too much into that, but it really reveals a cultural assumption of how permanent, unavoidable, and how inherently necessary some of these institutions are that are totally not. So, evolving beyond it. Evolution. It's the evolution. It's gonna happen. And we can all be a part of it. We need each other to be a part of it. And see, here's another reason why it's so important. Because this is the unifying perspective. To me, this is the unifying perspective. Because it advocates. Look, what I'm trying to say here, I know I'm clearly very opinionated, and I have opinions, perspectives on how all this shit should be done and run and blah, blah. But core to my message is not that, hey, look, I know how things need to be done and that everybody else should yield to what I'm saying, and that like the world needs to operate like I think it should operate. I mean, partly, but it's like it's the meta aspect of it, which is important and which distinguishes it from just trying to claim like I know the one true system. And the core of that message is just that we need the open ecosystem for us to all be able to pursue our own visions of how to live freely and voluntarily. Because only then will we be able to create happiness for the vast majority of people? And will we be able to glean what actual solutions could exist for the various problems that human society faces, that we are strangleholded from being able to solve quickly because the conversation and the ability to attempt to solve these problems are so centralized and red taped that the vast majority of us can't participate in the endeavor. So yeah, we need a I call it VAST. VAST is voluntary alternatives to state tyranny, a vast ecosystem. I want to see a world where the liberals can unite with other liberals and live in liberal land, where conservatives can unite with other conservatives and live in conservative land, where libertarians can unite with other libertarians and live in libertarian land, where ANCAPs can be ANCAPs, where ANCOMs can be ANCOMs, where resource-based economy people can live in fucking the Venus Project, where we can all live our own visions of how society should run. Oh, and I know it sounds so ludicrous and so utopian, but what sounds more utopian? The fact that we need to, again, this is the unifying aspect of it, that we can unify, and the fact that we each want to pursue our own visions of how to live, and if we can support everybody else's right and freedom to gather with people that agree with them and to live how they want to live, if we can all support each other in that endeavor, then we can begin to look at, okay, what are the mechanisms by which this can actually be achieved? What are the mechanisms? How can we go from where we're at right now, all being intermingled and trying to force each other, like taking turns holding the gun to each other's head, to force each other to live how we want to live, versus finding ways where we can coexist. See, this is like, I guess, VAST is like the political equivalent of coexist. Because coexist, recognize that, look, if I'm Islamic, you're Christian, and you're Jewish, and you're Catholic, like, look, we're never all going to come to a point where we all agree on the same religion and belief systems. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So what we need to do is we need to find ways where you can be Christian and you can be Catholic and you can be Jewish and you can be Islamic and you can do your little Scientology thing over here. You can do that if you feel so compelled. And we will find a way to coexist. We will coexist. I'll respect your right to believe what you believe and to pursue your own vision of the world. And you guys can do your Christian thing over there and like with your people. I'll respect your right to do that. You respect my right to do me. And we will coexist. A little coexist bumper stickers. That shit is good. I know it's corny. I know it feels corny now because of all the bumper stickers. But it's good. It's good. That's what we need politically. That's what we need politically. A political coexist. Again, I call it VAST. Voluntary alternatives to state tyranny. Communists can be communists. Socialists can go be socialists. Fucking conservatives and liberals can go do, you can do your thing. And caps and resource-based economy. Go do your thing. If you want to fucking create a new society based on time banks or some shit like that, go do your thing. Do you, boo? Do you, boo? Go do you. We need that. We need that. As a matter of survival for the human fucking species, we need that. Because I hate to tell you, the polarization is only going to increase. The polarization is going to increase. Our destructive capacities are going to exponentially increase. Meaning, if you consider how much damage one person could do 100,000 years ago, there's only so much damage you can do to the human species with a rock. One person with a rock. I mean, you could take out, like, depending on how much of a beast you are, you could take out a good handful of people before you get stopped and taken down or whatever. And then, it's over for you. And then over time, we develop greater weapons. You could take out a lot more people with a sword than you could with a rock. And theoretically, a lot more people with a bow than you could with a sword, depending on the circumstances in the battle landscape. A lot more people with a musket than you could with a bow. A lot more people with a Gatling gun than you could with a musket. A lot more people with a bomb than you could with a Gatling gun. And a lot more people with a genetically engineered virus, fake leaked from a lab in Wuhan, than you could with a bomb. The destructive capacities that individuals have is growing exponentially. And this is part of why the gun control debate is so flawed, even if you want to ignore our rights to defend ourselves. Even if you want to ignore that and just look at the practicality of it, it's flawed. Because as long as we have dramatic societal tension and dramatically increasing levels of mental health crises, there will be people that try to commit mass violence against other people. And there are too many ways to do that. And there are more and more ways that are becoming possible as time continues, and these ways are getting more and more destructive. So, point being, polarization dramatically increasing, destructive capacity of individuals dramatically increasing. And again, government's not the solution to it. Government can't prevent all these, because government in itself is a weapon. Government, it can be used as a weapon against populations. I mean, I don't know what the total death toll is for how many people have been killed by the various like governmental actions across history versus pandemics. I can't say for sure. I don't know the exact numbers. You could probably crunch the numbers. Somebody could probably crunch the numbers, and I bet you I'm right. But I mean, I could be wrong. But I'm saying I mean, government is one of the most lethal weapons. One of the government as a weapon of mass destruction, partially because it contains that threat, right? If you control one of the governments with weapons of mass destruction, then you control weapons of mass destruction. And if you centralize control of those governments into the hands of, we see what happens again and again when you have like a fucking dictator or a small authoritarian regime. They can do heinous things because, first of all, you have to be a certain type of person to even aspire to get there. And then to be successful at getting there above all of the other cutthroat sociopaths that want that spot. Who do you have to be? Who do you have to be to claim that throne within the current system? Who do you have to be? And so government's not the solution to this. And so we have all of these increasing tensions and increasing vulnerabilities and increasing capacities for destruction. We have no other choice but to do something radical to address this soon. We have no other choice. That doesn't result in the vast majority of us dying off and some major cataclysm that'll conclude the sixth mass extinction with a mass human extinction. Not that it wipes all of us out, but that it kills most of us and leaves a few of us to rebuild in a better way, having learned the lessons. If we're going to avoid that, we need to do something dramatically different and soon. And what I'm arguing is that we need this sort of mentality to take root. It needs to be voluntary. We need to have voluntary engagement with these institutions. And we need to have the ability to build our own alternative parallel societies. We have to. I know I've been going on here for a while now. I just wanted to just talk a little bit and let some of you that don't know me, don't understand how I think, kind of get a little bit of the picture, so you'll have context to understand some of the stuff I'm talking about in the album. And another thing I wanna address here is that hip hop. Music in general, but yeah, specifically hip hop was one of my first great loves in this life. I've loved it since I was a kid at a very thorough level. I could just remember being on the floor with my cousins, trying to write down the lyrics to Bone Thugs and Harmony songs, and just really falling in love with it, and hearing Wu-Tang for some of the first times. I could just remember the first time I heard Triumph as a kid, and just feeling so fucking enchanted and what is this? And I'm a hip hop fan to the core. I've been writing since I was a kid. And when I first really got serious about like being a musician and rapping, I'm like, I just wanted to do it just for the sheer art of it. I just fucking loved it. And so like everything I wrote, it was completely like frivolous. It was just all like braggadocio, hip hop punchlines and rhyme patterns and shit like that. And um I love it, and it wasn't until later that my work started to take on. You know, when I went through my political and spiritual awakening, that my work started to take on any sense of meaning. So, I know there's gonna be different audiences that really resonate with what I'm doing here. They're gonna be the people that um, that understand me politically and conceptually and content wise, that really resonate with what I'm doing and what I'm saying. And a lot of those people might not understand what I'm doing with like the hip hop and the wordplay and the hip hop. Like hip hop is such a coded language. It's such a coded language. Like you got to know the culture and you have to know the slang and all that. And like there's a lot of things that you just won't understand if you don't get it, and you'll just miss it. So there will be people that resonate with what I'm doing conceptually and cultural. I mean, the ideas and the philosophies and the messages. And then there are going to be the people that see what I'm doing, like, with the craft. That see the wordplay and the punchlines and the metaphors and the references, the cultural references and stuff like that, but that might not necessarily understand what I'm getting at, philosophically and with the messages. And then there's going to be like for the small group of people that like where it intersects, where you both like really understand hip hop culture and you really understand this sort of like freedom mindset and politics and philosophy and all that sort of shit. Those are really the people that are going to really light up when they hear this. And everybody on the other side, there'll be plenty for you to enjoy, but I just want to honor that this is it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody, but it's first and foremost for me. It's for me. I love what I do, and I love my own shit, and I crack myself up and I geek myself out like creating it and listening to it. And so I'm making something that I love, and if I'm the only one, that's totally fine. Well, I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one, because at least I know my nieces and nephews get a kick out of it. They get a kick out of it, and that makes me happy. So, and it's not a wasted effort if this falls on deaf ears. But I don't suspect it will. I feel like we're in a time period where a lot of people will get where I'm coming from, and whether you understand everything is going to take or if it just takes you a few listens to grasp things, or it's just a lot of this is so layered that like you won't notice things the first time, and then on your 50th listen you'll come back and you'll hear something you didn't hear the first time. And it's part of what I geek out on. And so I really hope you guys enjoy it. And so it means a lot to me, to after all this time of stalling, procrastinating, holding back, putting plan B before plan A. Really just not, I start to forget who I am when I'm not working on my music, because it's just that important to me, and it's that like fundamental to my existence. And it's just one of the ways I reconnect with myself. And when I go long periods of time without doing that, I kind of like lose myself, I've realized. So it just feels good for me to be doing, and I hope that comes across. So anyway, thanks for the support. Thanks for the support and coming along with me on this journey. Like I said, I'm just trying to spread the word and hype people up. This is like small, maybe like no more than half of each song on the album. I have actually, maybe I shouldn't even like mention it, but this is just the first. I have a whole another album that's like 60% ready, all ready to go. But there's just like I needed to get this one out first. I just really needed to get this out. There's a wide range, some of these songs are like revamps of old stuff that I wrote 10 years ago. Some of this stuff is was relatively new and all that. So there's a pretty wide spectrum, but there's just a lot of stuff here that I feel like I needed to go ahead and get out before I moved on to anything else. And so, yeah, I'm one of those types of people that hates asking for help. I know consciously that no man's an island, but I'm one of those that acts like I'm an island and that I can just do it all myself. Is part of the reason why I've taught myself everything in this process. From the production to, my mixing and mastering is not great, as you can hear on these songs. And this was just like a quick, I was just trying to, just get a preview out there and everything. So this is not necessarily representative of the best I can do, but in terms of mixing and mastering, but I'm far from great at it. But yeah, also I built my own websites, manage my own hosting, all that sort of stuff, do my own video editing, my own graphic design, and just 11 of the 17 songs on the album I actually produced the beats for and all that. So I do this all myself, and I have no intention to sign to a record label or anything. I want to build the whole machine around me, which I feel very capable of doing, considering too that my previous business, Autonomite, it was a creative agency, and I developed a good understanding of business and entrepreneurship and business models and marketing. And so I just really want to build the whole machine around me. But I realized that as much as I feel like I can do this all by myself, that I shouldn't. It's going to take way too long. It's not going to be as good. And ultimately, it's just I won't be the greatest service to humanity if I try to do this all by myself. So I'm here today asking for help. And there's various ways you can help out. If you believe in what I'm doing here and you really want to support, there's various ways you can help out. First of all, just follow me on all of my social platforms. Wherever these videos are posted, I'll have the links to all of my social accounts. So you can follow me on all the social medias, and please subscribe, notification bell, smash that subscribe, all the shit that to do. Please do that. And when you see me post things, please help share it or whatever, thumbs up, all that. Thank you. You can help in that way. Join my newsletter on my website, which will also be linked down there. So those are just free ways that you can really help get my music and my message out to more people. And it'd be it'd be very appreciated. Another thing is you could definitely offer constructive feedback, other than just the sound quality issues sort of thing, which I know, look, again, this is just me mixing and mastering this preview. So this, I know it needs to sound studio quality. And that's part of what I'm trying to do here, as I'll get to in a second. But I know audio quality, production quality can be a higher level. But like, if there's any other constructive feedback that you could offer, any constructive feedback that is utilized, if I see what you say and I'm like, hey, great, I'm grateful for anything, but especially if you give me a suggestion that I end up implementing, you will definitely get prominent thanks on any of the album materials, whether it be on the website or in the, any physical materials related to the album. You will get thanks and all that sort of thing. So it'll be really appreciated. There, as I was alluding to before, there are. So look, I'm trying to build the entire machine around me. I really have no intentions of signing with any record label. And I mean, who knows? I'm not gonna completely say it's impossible. Like, I don't know. Like, it would have to be a really amazing situation. Like, with like somebody really aligned. It seems like just really unlikely that I could get the terms that would make me comfortable signing a deal. So anyway, I'm mainly planning to do this independently. And I know I have the capacity to, and there are just two roles that I really need fulfilled sooner rather than later. One of which, the most important one, is I need a producer. I need someone to sit down with me and to like help me take all of these songs to like an industry release quality, and help me I don't know, spice things up, give me a different ear, really kind of help collaborate with me on the process to take these things from beta to, okay, they're ready to be pushed out. So I need that role filled, and slightly less urgently, but just as important, as I'll need a manager. I have a couple candidates myself that I'm going to be pursuing, but I'm not trying to put all my eggs in those baskets right now. And I just want to put it out there that I'm going to need that role filled. I'll need a manager that has experience in the music industry and that can help assist with building the relationships with venues and scheduling bookings and building relationships with the press and just allow me to really focus headstrong on getting into my content creation flow and putting out a ton of new music and new content and all that sort of stuff. So I really need that role filled. Then also money, it just, I mean, right now, and I've seen it estimated that it costs between $1 million and $2 million to break a mainstream artist, which obviously, not at all what that's not even all what I'm trying to do here. I mean, look, if I can go mainstream, awesome. Part of what I'm trying to do is kind of bridge the gap between the mainstream and some of the more conscious but slightly less accessible artists, guys like Immortal Technique, who's Immortal legend, but his music doesn't necessarily have the kind of mainstream appeal that would catch on for a lot of people. So I kind of want to bridge that gap of kind of having mainstream appeal but still being able to bring in that level of political and spiritual and conscious substance to it, So anyway, it costs money to do things like this, and I mean, there's everything from wrapping up the production, handling the mixing and mastering, and getting all this stuff ready to sound industry quality. There is I want to do at least 3 singles from this album, which all need music videos. So there's that production. There's like whatever you can have in a marketing budget these days, because so many of the social media platforms are pay to play these days. You really just have to have some sort of budget to actually get any sort of growth. So marketing budget, and just, yeah, it just I don't have to, I'm sure most of you understand that it takes money to actually do this in the right way. And so, yeah, if you would consider making a one-time or recurring donation, to, like, if you believe in what I'm doing here and you want to see me continue, and you want to see this work, you want to see these messages, these fucking songs like get out there, then yeah, I would really appreciate that. Like, I really can't do it without you. I'm going to continue pushing myself, and I'm going to do whatever I can. But these are things that are really going to help tremendously in terms of actually being able to execute this and get some traction. And I can't even, like, make this last ask without putting out there that, like, I know this is a really hard and challenging time for a lot of people. I mean, we're on the verge of, like, some potentially some major hyperinflation and economic collapse and all this. And so, look, I'll make this thing happen. I've already given, like, multiple ways. Like, if you believe in me, that you can help support without doing anything financial or giving any money or anything like that. Like, look, if you are not completely prepared to navigate the time period that we're about to face right now and the hardships that are staring us in the eyes, then please do not give me any money. I'm okay, and I'm gonna do this whatever means I can, like, whatever like grit I have to show to get this out there, or like guerrilla marketing, or whatever I gotta do, I'm gonna do to make this happen. So don't you worry. But for those of you that do have any sort of abundance and that believe in what I'm doing and that want to help me in that way, it would be beyond appreciated. And yeah, needless to say, I mean, all the special thanks and, like, perks, and like down the line, here in the near future, I'll be figuring out some actual, like, membership levels and different perks, and all those things will be honored retroactively. But for right now, you'll at least have my sincerest and deepest fucking gratitude. So there's that. So thank you for coming on this ride of Fight and Flight. There's a lot in here. I hope you guys love it. And if you don't love it, that's fine too. I'm doing me right now. And it means a lot to me that I've kicked myself in the ass enough to actually get this much out there. And there's only a couple things from my part needed left. Like, there's 2 verses that need, so again, there's probably half of each song, a little bit more for a couple songs of, in this preview. But basically all the songs are done except for 2 songs. I need to finish a single verse, and 1 song needs a beat change at the end. And yeah, and this will all be done in terms of where I can get it by myself. And I'd estimate I really only need like 2 weeks with a producer with experience to sit down and go through all this. And I can have this album ready to be pushed out there, and to to hopefully make some traction and inspiring people, maybe waking some people up, just offering as an attack vector in this cultural, informational, consciousness, spiritual war. And yeah, a big thank you to everybody that's listened to the video this far, or that listens to my music. It means everything to me. If I were to die tomorrow, I could be happy now. So yeah, thank you, and I just want to end. I want to end with a chant that I'll be ending all my performances with. And the chant is that there will be no apocalypse. We got this shit. No apocalypse. We got this shit. No apocalypse. We got this shit. No apocalypse. We got